All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. I am your host, Stefan Burns. Today, we have a lot to talk about. We've had some incredible developments with the sun over the past 24 hours, really actually just the past 16 hours or so. And I've never seen anything like this. Let's just say that. I haven't been doing this for 30, 40, 50, 100 years, but really this whole field of space weather is pretty new. We saw some really explosive development with the sun back in April and May of 2024. And that led to the Mother's Day storm or the Gannon storm, that long duration G5 storm. We had sunspot group 3664 that was on the sun. That was equivalent in size to the Carrington sunspot at that moment in time. It did not give us a Carrington event. Thankfully, what we have happening right now with the sun is honestly very similar, and in some aspects it's looking more significant. We could have a Carrington event in the immediate future, a modern Carrington event. It is possible. The conditions are there. Does not mean we will have one, but all the factors have aligned such that it could happen. And in fact, if we look at some of these outside influences, for example, planetary resonances, planetary alignments, the conditions now are almost identical as they were back in 1859. So we have a lot to talk about today. All this flash you see on the screen is what's happening right now with the sun. It's quite dramatic. I'm just pulling up a graphic to show you guys, showing you the comparison of the Carrington sunspot to what we have now. I'll show you this a little later, but forgot to load this into the live stream at the beginning. And let me put that right here. Just rename. This is going to be a longer live stream, I'm guessing, just because there's so much to talk about. A lot of updates. I'm going to answer as many questions as I can before I just have to basically go to bed, because there is a lot to discuss today. So yeah, we've had more than a dozen M-class flares from this sunspot group here. This is 4366. We've had an X-class flare. I think it was a 1.1, no, just an X1 flare. By itself, you know, an X-class flare, an X1 flare, you know, it's a strong flare. It's the highest category, but it did not launch a coronal mass ejection. Actually, in fact, nothing has launched from the sun yet as far as I know. We'll check the chronograph imagery. I haven't checked it for a couple hours. Maybe just one of these recent ones have, but I think they haven't launched any coronal mass ejections yet. That seems to be the case. I'm looking at the latest data right now on the screen. But this looks like preliminary activity, which is why I have the video title the way it is, right? I don't use that title lightly, okay? If this is a tiny sunspot, I wouldn't put the title like that because, well, it's a tiny sunspot. It's not going to do it. But if you've been watching this since the live stream started, that is not normal. This is very abnormal, folks, to see this sort of activity. And we haven't had a coronal mass ejection yet, which is kind of like that big explosion and you release it, right? There's this bundle, there's this whole complex bundle of plasma here. And until that gets ejected out, it's going to keep interacting and building this sort of activity. You effectively need that to get launched for this to kind of wrap up its task. It hasn't done that yet. So the fact that we're seeing this already at these levels, and we're going to do a complete breakdown so I can really lay it out for you, okay? So please watch the whole video and before you have a takeaway, all right? Because we do proper breakdowns every single time in my channel. You know, we go through everything. I'll explain. I'll show you everything. I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. Okay. If you're new here again, I'm your host, Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy, cosmic bro, whatever. You know, maybe in 2-3 days, titles and labels aren't going to matter. I have a feeling, man. I have a feeling right now that things are pretty like something. I don't even really know how to put words on it, but things are really getting wild right now. I mean, if you look at what's happening with the world, it's like insane, like literal insanity right now with some certain aspects of the world. And the sun is the reset. The sun's always been there. It's always connected to us, right? We're connected to it. It's the benevolent force in our solar system that has the ultimate power, and it can reset us if it wants to. And a Carrington event in the modern day could reset us technologically. It could. Based off of what we knew happened in 1859, what happened in 1872, 1921, 1972, some of these examples, like depending on the strength of a solar flare, or even go up to a super flare, we could have a technological reset. This is not some fantasy or fiction. It's fiction until it happens, but we could have one. Could is the key word. So then if that's the key word, what is the risk level? Well, typically, if you have, let's say, just this thing right there, the risk is 0, okay? When you have this going, growing every single minute, becoming more complex, it's super compact and dense, many times the size of the Earth. We'll check it all out. The risk is a lot higher, all right? So this is like a real serious thing. There's some people right now, like space weather freaks and aurora freaks, are like, oh, I can't wait for this sunspot to get bigger. It's so awesome. It's like, these people are fucking insane, because this literally could just completely reset like modern technology, satellites, GPS, communication networks, cellular and whatever, right? Radio, cellular, power grids, power outages. We have record-breaking cold and snowstorms around the world, record snowfall in Moscow for 200 years, record snowfall in parts of Japan for more than 60 years, huge snowstorm right now in the United States, in the South, that we just had a big one. I mean, I'm up here right now in Sweden. It's snowing here. It's not like ultra crazy, but like, you don't want the power to go out, folks, okay? You have roasting heat in Australia, right? You don't want those ACs to get turned off. This could get really bad. So some of these people are literally out of their minds. I don't get it. So anyways, it's time to get into this. We have a lot to cover. So, and I'm going to lay out the case for you. Let's look first at our X-ray flux so you get a sense of what I'm talking about here, okay? And this should be set up correctly. Yeah, all right. So here is our X-ray flux. This is how we measure solar flares. Basically, we look at the amount of soft X-ray light that they release, and we use that to categorize. There's short wave, long wave, and we're really interested in the long wave. So the orange and red is what we use to classify, okay? We were down here in the high B class zone before. Now we're at the middle to high M class zone. These are order of magnitude jumps. You see that this is watts per square meter, 10 to negative 9, 10 to negative 8, 10 to negative 7. Okay, you go on. So X class flares start at 10 to negative 4. Then you go to 10 to negative 3. That would be a 10.0 X class flare. 10 to negative 2 would be a 100 X class flare. The strongest solar flare on record was an X45 with the 2003 Halloween storms. So the Carrington event is estimated to be like X65, but we really don't know. We didn't have this sort of technology back then. So it's probably somewhere in that range. But in general, anything over X10 is big. I think at a minimum, stepping back, you know, the risk of a Carrington event being high, we're going to talk about all this stuff. I think we're very likely looking at the strongest solar flare yet for this solar cycle. That doesn't mean it's going to be a Carrington class solar flare or Carrington event or something. Just that risk probability is dramatically higher right now than it normally is. That does not mean it's going to occur. I have to like drill this into some people's heads, but it is dramatically higher. This is a forecast. And so when you see thunderclouds on the horizon, the forecast is we very likely have a thunderstorm. Sometimes they divert at the last second. Oftentimes they don't, and they roll right on overhead and you get the thunderstorm. And sometimes they're big. That's what's happening right now. Okay, so we had this at the high B class range. Then it kind of bumped up as this sunspot group started to form. It really has only been on the sun for about 2 days now, a little bit more than 48 hours. You can see how we immediately bumped into C class territory. That in itself is not unusual, but that is, in general, see all that activity there, up and down, showing just how active it was. And then all of a sudden we bumped up in M-class territory, like boom, here we are. And then we had this 1.0 X-class flare. Let's look at our 3-day. You see that it's just been super, super active. It's forming a base of activity here, okay? So we see that it's forming this base. Again, no coronal mass ejections have been launched yet. The strongest solar flare has been a 1.0 X-class flare, which compared to many of the solar flares in this solar cycle, which have been long duration with big coronal mass ejections, this isn't that significant yet. Here's our 1-day view, and we see that we've had about a dozen M-class flares here, also that 1.0 X-class flare. Let me show you now the look on Space Weather Live. Here we have that. We'll view in full screen because they put a label on all the flares. So it just, as a visual, really clearly shows the dramatic increase where we started getting C-class flares. It's like, hey, we're bumped up. And then there's our M-class flares. And boom, here we are. And this is kind of the key that I want to show you. Now let's go to not Helio Viewer. We want Helio Time. We'll look at Helio Viewer. I mean, while we're here, this is the size of this sunspot compared to Earth. This is the size of the sunspot compared to Earth right now. It's like 8 to 10 Earths across. It's more than 8 Earths wide, probably more like 9 now because it keeps growing. But let's go back here to Helio Time. This is what I want to show you. So look here. This is the 1.9 X-class flare that we had back on the 18th, right before the 19th. It hit us about, just about 30 hours later. And we see that it spiked up to that 1.9 level, right about there, 1.95. Look at where it launched from. This is kind of a key thing. This is not always the case, but 4 out of 5 times it kind of is. The higher the base flux is, the higher the solar flare can go. So when I'm looking at activity and I see that crackling activity, I kind of want to see where that baseline flux is. And then I get an idea of where it can kind of launch from after that. So this baseline flux here before that long duration 1.9 X flare, which launched that really big coronal mass ejection, which gave us a near Carrington level impact. We'll look at the sunspot for that as well, okay? That was from low C-class territory. That was the baseline, all right? We see a long duration flare here. That was a long duration 3.2 something flare. Its baseline was is actually high B class. So the point here is that we went from high B class all the way up to middle M class. That's basically 2 orders of magnitude, 100x increase. We look here, we specifically went from 1.67 in C class all the way up to 1.9. That's a 100x increase. So this is kind of the point. These are just 2 examples, but you could go through this record of X-ray flux, and you'll see a whole bunch of examples of what I'm talking about, okay? We're just using these most recent ones to drive to the point. If this is our foundation, we could, see something 10 to 100 times greater, very easily 10 times greater, because 10 times greater right now, if we punch in on this, 10 times greater as of right now would just be an X-class flare, like a 1.0 X-class flare. 100 times greater would all of a sudden put that at X10 or greater. So that is, and if we use this as a base, right, we did have this without a coronal mass ejection. And honestly, we also had, what was this? 5 something M-class flare and then another near 5 M-class flare right there. So if we use M5 as our base, right, if we use that level, 5.0 M-class as our base, a 100x increase would be a 50 X-class flare. So that is just, we're going to go through some kind of rough back of the napkin calculations in math in general, but just looking at all these different factors, I want to give you a sense of what's happening. Now let's look at the size of this compared to 3664, the Carrington sunspot at least. So here's the Carrington sunspot from 1859, and we have the size of 3664 back from May of 2024. You see that it was equivalent in size. Now, 3664 had some good density right here and an unstable magnetic field, but a lot of its size, you see right there, actually didn't have much in the intermediate region. And so you really want compact clustering and density with sunspots for them to be really explosive. That's kind of one of the key factors. So we see with 3664, it had that for this zone, and it had some sunspots on the edge there, which in general, made it more complex and more explosive and unstable, but it was missing a lot of density, complexity, magnetic flux in that large intermediate region right there. Whereas you see with this Carrington sunspot, now this is just a sketch that the guy did, right? They didn't have all these advanced tools. So he did a manual sketch of this sunspot. And you see where he put in the cores, and then you see where he put in these more shaded regions, okay? You see that it was a bit more compact and dense. Let's look at our sunspot right now. So we are going to examine our sunspot that's happening right now. I just got to update the imagery to the absolute latest for you all. Shouldn't take long to load in. And then we'll look at this compared to 3664. But right now, this sunspot we have on the sun is equivalent in size to the two of these. But it's really compact and dense, more so than 3664. And we had multiple X-class flares, long duration, launch from that sunspot group back in May. But we didn't see that sort of ramp up in basin activity back in May with that. Now, while that loads, I'm going to load back up helio time, and we're going to go back to May to see kind of what it was looking like. All right. So here we have helio time again, and that's our base. Kind of remember what that looks like. All right. That's what it looks like right now. Let's go back in time to 2024 and give it a look. I remember it very clearly. I was reporting on all this stuff back then. It was a big event. Here it is. So here is just in general what was happening for May of 2024 with 3664. Look at that ramp up. And then we just started going absolutely nuts. We were in this high M-class zone there. And then we started popping off with some really big X-class flares, though it did settle out at this high C-class territory there after it had that big ramp up to the M-class zone. So a lot of these strongest solar flares, like for example, this one in particular, let's get that count. I think it was an X9, if I remember right. That's the strongest flare we've had. Or 8 point, well, we can even zoom in more specifically to really get it. 8.64, it jumped up from a 5.1 C-class flare, okay? So that was more than a 100x increase. So that's, again, that scaling ratio that I'm talking about. Whatever that base that you're forming is, you can launch up 10 to 100 times more than that and perhaps greater. But in general, it seems that a lot of these big flares are about 100 to 200 times greater than what their base flux was. So this is what happened back in May of 2024. We did not have a Carrington event then, but we didn't have the planetary geometry that we've had right now. It's almost the same as it was back in 1864. So we'll check that out. But let's go back now to our intensitygram here for the sun and see what's been happening. Here is, and let's reset that view. Here is our sunspot right now. This thing is a monster. Really, this is straight up a monster. Yeah. Look at that. This is not normal. The amount of mixing here in this intermediate region, this core keeps getting bigger. There's so much mixing happening here. Now, if I zoom out a little bit, let's reset the view, and we're at the end. I'm going to set this up for you guys so we can track this across time, okay? So I think now if I go forward, yeah, here we go. So I'm just going to put this on play, all right? We're going to watch 4366 develop over time. It's already becoming a pretty significant sunspot group. I'd say right around this zone is where the sunspot we just had that gave us a near Carrington level impact was. we'll look at that one too. That was just back on, again, January 18th. So we'll just go back a little bit after this and check out that sunspot to see what that gave us. Look at that growth though. Look at that development. This is not normal. And there's so many different signs too that are pointing to this, but look at how this changes. Like just the movement of these sunspot cores is so crazy. Like that right there, I mean, it's just so like insane. I really don't know what to say other than I feel like I'm seeing something we're not supposed to see unfold in real time. Like this is some forbidden thing that normally we wouldn't see until the solar flare hit us. You know, the solar flare, then the coronal mass ejection hit us. Yet with our technology, we're seeing it in real time. But this is where we are right now. So if I zoom out and we'll kind of go like this, let's see how this will work. I'm going to put back on this Carrington thing. I'm going to overlay it here. And let's move that off to the side. I'm going to try to get these suns the same size. All right. So I think that looks pretty good. I think that's about the same size. This is where we are right now, basically, in relation to the Carrington event and 3664. And you have to keep in mind, this is still foreshortened a little bit because it's still rotating to Earth center and direct. It's not there on that Earth center direct line. All right. So it very well, it's going to look bigger once it is Earth center direct. And that's kind of a key point as well as it relates to this. If I go back here, it's going to be Earth center direct in about 3 days. So it has 3 more days to develop. And look, again, just watch the rate of development. All right, we'll really punch in on this again so we can really get a good sense of what the heck is happening. It's got 3 more days or 2 days before it's in that zone, but up to 5 days for it to really develop more before it launches something that could hit us. If it was to do a big coronal mass ejection now, it would mostly launch off to the side like that, okay? So go like this. Maybe we get a flank impact. Sometimes the coronal mass ejections can kind of like bend and go away that you wouldn't expect, but in general, they kind of launch straight out. So right now, if you were to have something launch, we would probably just get a flank impact. Huge proton storm or radiation storm, but we wouldn't be looking at, you know, a massive, massive impact. But we have the strike zone coming up right now. The next 5 days, really the next week. If you had to like expand out the time horizon, the next week is ultra critical, and starting in 2 days, it's going to be very, very critical as it enters into that strike zone. So again, this thing just formed. This is about 48 hours of imagery right here. You see how much has grown in 48 hours. Like literally every time I'm checking this, every 2 hours, I'm looking at it, zooming in on the 4K imagery. I'm like, holy cow, it got even bigger. It got more complex. It keeps finding ways to fill in its intermediate regions and just become something like a real sunspot monster. I don't think there's honestly a better way to describe it, because like here is where I reported on it last night, right? And people are like, you're such a clickbaiter, like mega sunspot, like get the fuck out of here. And it's like, guys, it was the rate of development and the activity that led me to talk like that, you know, to give that forecast. And well, guess what? Here's where we are right now. So that's a mega sunspot now. We are in that territory and it's still continuing to get bigger. Here's just the past few hours. That's just the past few hours right there. Maybe not even 8 hours right there. Probably 6 hours of development right there. Every single region is getting bigger. If you look at this, as far as I can tell, basically every single region is getting bigger. I mean, we see the growth and development right there in this time frame, right? Look at our big core right there. That's getting bigger. We get all this push in development in the central region. You know, this top portion there, it's not getting smaller, it's getting more complex and dense. And these sunspot cores, if you watch this really closely, like just over and over and over, you see that they're all migrating inwards into whatever region they're closest to. So we've had flux continuously pile in. Again, if I kind of go back there, you'll see how there's like this magnetic pool, check like right there, like pulling it in, right? So it's just accumulating and accumulating. It's like gravity, like pulling this stuff in. So we're not done. They're getting bigger. It's overall getting bigger, more complex, more dense, more magnetic field mixing, polarity, shear, everything. This could give us a Carrington class solar flare and coronal mass ejection. So let's go back now to what was happening on the 18th of January, okay, and give that a look. To see that sunspot, which triggered that near Carrington level impact, because that was a big, very big solar flare. Well, 1.9 X class flare wasn't that big of a solar flare. Big, but not that big, but it was very significant in terms of the coronal mass ejection it launched, came at super high speed, and also the magnetic field was Carrington level. It was definitely not something to mess around with. So let's go here, look at our red temperature. This was the sun back on the 18th of January, and we can go back to our helio time and specifically get the exact moment of that long duration 1.9 X class flare to see when that was. It was at, what was it saying? 17:30 UTC on the 18th. So let's zoom to that time. All right. I think we're pretty close already. 17:30. I would need to increase the density. Here is just 2 hours before that long duration 1.9 X class flare. I don't remember the name of this guy. It was something interesting, the number, but quite a bit different than what we have now. And we had a magnetic field in that solar storm that went a total magnetic field strength that went above 90 nanotesla, and the vertical component had a strength over 60 nanotesla. It could have been the biggest solar storm impact since 1989, and I think stronger. And that's what it launched from. It was also combining a little bit of the coronal hole, high-speed stream, and the co-rotating interaction region. Space weather can be complex, but in general, that is what it launched from. That's not what we have right now. What we have right now is a lot different. It's a lot different. It's a lot bigger. It's a lot more complex. It's a lot more concerning. And that guy is on the far side. So it's not like it's gone away. It's not like it's just poof, it disappeared. Let me see if there's anything. Yeah, let me show you this really quick. This is our D region absorption map, just to show you how charged up the Earth is right now, because the other component to this is, regardless if we get a Carrington class solar flare and coronal mass ejection, or something near Carrington, or even just something normal, right, and that launches towards Earth, the lowest probability is that nothing happens. That's the lowest probability by far. I would say like maybe 5% chance, if that. The most likely probability is that we get something really big, similar like a week ago. But I think the risk of a Carrington level impact is like actually above 1%. It's like significant. I would say maybe it's like a 10% chance right now, or even probably like 20, 30% chance because of the planetary geometry, which I'm going to show you. Okay. So if it wasn't because of the planetary geometry, I would have the risk lower. But the planetary geometry that we've had in January is so similar to the planetary geometry that we had in the days before the Carrington event. It's uncanny. So this is the charging that's been going on to our ionosphere as a result of these dozen plus M-class flares in that 1.0 X-class flare. And every single solar flare, the light radiation hits Earth, that charges up the global electric circuit, the whole Earth energy system in general. Becomes more active as a result. And so when you have these sort of long duration, like high frequency flare activity from the sun like this, it makes the geomagnetic storms that you're going to get if a coronal mass ejection does impact that much stronger, because the Earth energy system is loaded up with energy from all that high energy, high frequency light radiation. If we go here, we can see our radiation belts. I hope this loads. There we go. We'll see where our radiation belts are right now. As far as I know, they are effectively fully charged and have been fully charged for multiple days now. So this is January 26th, and this is about a minute long for a video, but we're just going to play through it so we can see what's been happening over the past week. It's really not changing. It looks like we had a G1 geomagnetic storm there, pushed it a little bit down, but then we'll get a recharging afterwards. Now it's January 29th, and we see we're right back to extreme flux in our radiation belts. And here's the 30th of January. We're right back to it. We're holding it. January 31st, yesterday. That's our radiation belts, fully supercharged. And here's today, just a few hours away from the present moment. And there we are. So yeah, our radiation belts are also completely, fully charged. And that's stacking on top of everything else. So the entire system is ready to go. We're ready for a boom shakalaka, but beyond anything that I think we've seen maybe in decades, like decades. Because what we had just about 10 days ago was equivalent in some aspects to the Halloween storms of 2003. It was one of the biggest solar storm impacts that we've had in decades. So what could happen now with a much bigger sunspot is a lot higher. We also, before I go to the planetary resonances, just let me speak to the fact that we have a full moon right now. Here is our astronomical chart, true sky position. We see the sun there. We see the moon right here. The moon has just moved into the constellation of Leo, true sky. In Western tropical astrology, it's also in the constellation of Leo. The constellation, the sign, whatever, Leo is representative of the sun. So right now we have a sun, earth, moon alignment. The sun is in alignment with Aquarius, or in this case, true sky, Capricorn. And the moon is right in Leo, the beginning of it, true sky, or in Western tropical, it's in Leo firmly, right in the center. It's actually right on my moon. This full moon is occurring on my moon. And so I think that's why I have a bit of ability to feel what's happening right now, because literally my moon is resonating with all this. But regardless, we have, our full moon in this perfect planetary alignment at this moment in time in the constellation of Leo, which is representative of the sun. So it's not really surprising that we have this all happening based off of that. Now, let me show you the planet. A lot of you have already seen this, but let me show you for anyone that's new. If you are new, you're jumping to the live stream. Hello, I'm your host, Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy. Your cosmic bro to help you understand what's happening. This is a pretty unprecedented live stream. I've done a lot of live streams on solar, space weather, solar activity, earthquakes, and stuff of that nature. But to do one for a potential Carrington class solar storm is new. But that is a distinct possibility. It's not guaranteed, right? Anyone that tells you it's guaranteed, you should just leave. But it's a distinct possibility. It's happened before. It will happen again. The question is when, not if, and it could be very, very soon. So here is what happened with our planets back in early January of this year, 2026. We see this alignment: Jupiter, Earth, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and where we are right now is here. So this alignment has started to break. Okay, still has this interesting symmetry to it. But it has started to break. We do see that Pluto has now effectively been in this alignment as well, because Jupiter is approaching its Pluto opposition later this year, but it's not there yet. But if we go back to 1859, let's see what's happening. Now, before we do that, just notice that we are building up to a great conjunction on February 20th with Neptune and Saturn. Remember the position in the sky? Right there at the beginning of Pisces, okay? because if you go over, this is Aries. So we have Pisces, Aries, and that's Taurus right there. So this is occurring, this great conjunction on the 20th of February. We'll go to it right there. Boom, shakalaka. There's our great conjunction. In Western tropical astrology, that is at the 0 degree mark of Aries. And yeah, it's not true sky, but if you use Western tropical, in fact, what you're using is a local reference frame for the solar system, because it's based off of the position, relative frame positioning of the solar system from equinox to solstice. So, forget about the signs if you want, what they mean, and oh, because you're a Taurus, you're this. You can leave all that stuff aside if you want, nonsense or otherwise. I'll tell you it's not nonsense, but you can leave it aside if you want. You can use Western tropical astrology simply to track specific degree points in our solar system and events that occur along those degree points. At 0 degrees, it's the very beginning of the cycle. Aries is fire sign. We have this crazy sunspot right now developing on the sun, right? The sun's not made of water or wind or earth. It's fire, baby. If all the elements, it's going to be fire. So we have that happening, and this great conjunction is occurring right at that 0 degree point, at that equinox point, basically indicating the beginning of something new. So let's go back in time now to the Carrington event, okay? And I can do this really easily, watch and be amazed, by grabbing Neptune here, and I'm just going to drag it back to where it is right now. Oh, I dragged it forward. Maybe 2190 is interesting. Sometimes there's a little bug that happens when you do that. So let's see if I can drag it back. This I'm using Uranus, but we're going to take Neptune back to basically where it is right now. Here's 1860, February. We don't have to go much further back now. We go to August of 1859. Right here, there is Neptune. Oh, look, it's right back at the beginning of Pisces. How about that? All right. Okay. So here's the planetary alignment. We have Earth, Mercury, the Sun, Venus, Mars, Saturn. We have this Mars-Venus synodic cycle just having occurred. It occurs once every 6.6 years, or 2,338 days. Okay. That's you get this alignment of Earth on one side and Venus and Mars on the other every 6.6 years. So it's fairly regular, but still notable. And how precise that alignment is variable. So you see here, there's a little bit of an angle to it. What we just had was perfect. It was actually a triple conjunction of Venus, Mars, and the Sun, within just like, boom, right there, like right there. And we showed that on the channel as it was happening back on January 8th, and all this activity started up after that. We were forecasting that a year in advance. We were looking at this geometry of January 2026 a year ago, saying, hey, we got some really big solar activity coming in because of this alignment, because of this historic parallel, right? There's a lot more we don't know than we do know, but we're not totally clueless. So either way, this was the alignment for the Carrington event here, and Saturn, Mars, Venus, Mercury, Earth, and the Carrington event occurred on the 3rd of September. So we can go forward just a little bit right there, and that is when it went down. So it went down pretty quickly. But the latest research into the planets shows that they have an effect on deeper parts of the sun, which drive solar cycles and sunspot formation. So when you get an alignment of the planets, it does matter. Their gravitational vectors may be minute, but for the sun, they are still significant. Therefore, when you get these sort of planetary alignments, we can look to them to forecast solar activity. This is still very, very new. We're not that good at it, but again, we're not totally clueless. There are some people like myself that have been tracking this in a very just like daily, looking at this very kind of artistic way almost, you could say, right? Experientially. And then there's a lot of solar researchers which are looking at the planetary alignments and calculating the forces and modeling how it affects the sun and the dynamo and solar flux and all that. Put it all together, there's something there. So we had the Carrington event during this alignment. Well, we just had a very similar alignment. Again, let's go back to the present moment. Oh, that won't do it. this app starts to bug out when I stay in it too long during a live stream. So we're gonna have to leave it soon. But see, maybe it's time to exit out of the app because it just totally throws my computer wonky. So let me close that out. I've basically shown you what I want to show you for that. One moment, it's still processing. I don't know why it does this. It's unfortunate, but actually, it's taken like my whole screen offline. Okay, so one moment. This should be fine, but I'm going to have to reset that display. Let's see what happens. Oh, okay, I think it's working now. Yeah. Okay, so at this point, I think I'm going to share the dream that I had back on the 20th of January during the last solar storm impact. When we were in the middle of that G4 geomagnetic storm, I had a very notable dream. I've been kind of waiting I did a podcast with a gentleman, Stuart Pierce. We talked about my dream on his podcast. I thought he was going to release it immediately. He did not. He's releasing it, I think, like the 16th of February. I don't think we have enough time. I don't think we have that much time. So I want to share it with you now. So I will do that. But I know that this is blinking a lot, so I'm going to switch this out, okay, with something that's not as intense. So give me a moment. That's also pretty intense. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'll just do that. Should have this guy. Okay, so let me share the dream that I have with you because I think this gives us some clues. All right. Now this sunspot right now is on the sun. It will be off the sun in about 11 days or so. It takes about 14 days to go halfway across the sun. It's about 3 days in, 3.5 days in. So it's gone in, let's say, 10 days. All right. Now this dream that I had came to me at 4:30 a.m. on the 20th of January. We were in the middle of a long duration G4 storm as a result of that near Carrington level impact because its magnetic field strength was so crazy strong. And it did come in at about 1,150 kilometers per second. So it was incredibly fast. So I had this dream as that was happening. I set my alarm to wake up at 4:30 to see if I saw any aurora, and I didn't. And that kind of helped trigger the dream. And I wrote it down the moment after it happened. So what happened was me actually setting an alarm turned into the dream because I woke up, I'm kind of in this half-day state. I checked to see the aurora, I went back to sleep, and then my dream picked up where I left off. And so I'm looking out and I see the crescent new moon in the sky to the left. And that's what the moon was doing at the time, because now it's the 1st of February. It's the full moon. Back then it was the new moon. So I saw the crescent moon in the sky to the left. So that was current moment. Then I'm talking to my family just about the storm, the aurora and everything, when suddenly I see the sun get eclipsed, and it's an annular eclipse because it's very clearly a ring of fire. It was like unmistakably an annular eclipse. So let me show that to you really quick. Here we have an annular eclipse. All right, guess what? We have an annular eclipse coming up February 17th, 2026. This is right before this Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th, which again, for Western Tropical is right the 0-degree creation mark of fire. But this is an annular solar eclipse that we have coming up. It's a new moon in front of the sun, but because the moon is at apogee, it's furthest away, it doesn't completely block the sun, so we get this annular solar eclipse, okay? Well, that's what I saw in my dream. I saw an annular eclipse. Then I saw multiple points of light, 3 in fact, and they all had this soft yellow-orange glow to them. Well, we just had Venus, Mars, and Mercury on the far side of the sun perform their cazimis. So that's 3 planets. I saw these 3 points of light. The eclipse phase is brief, and now these 3 lights are very bright, and the ground begins to shake. The sun is the largest, but the others are significant as well. It's a big earthquake, and everything is shaking like crazy, almost like the crust is shifting. We're on the East Coast, and I'm finding it's odd that's happening out here. At the time I was in Pennsylvania. Now in the distance, the bright points of light, which I know to be the sun and the planets, are exploding with energy like fireworks on display, except times 100 or times 1,000. I'm filming this on my iPhone X. I'm leaning out the sunroom door. I have my old phone for some reason, and I was like, I got to get this on video. Like, you know, everyone's going to freak out when they see this. Of course, everyone's seeing this, you know, if this is real life. So I'm filming this on my iPhone. I'm leaning out like the door of this room that we have. And I can feel the intense energy hitting me like it's radiation, but I'm not worried. Like I can feel the energy, but it's not like, oh my God, I'm getting like 100 chest x-rays simultaneously. So it's like a different character and quality of energy. And I wasn't like afraid or fearful. It was like there, like it could be there. Like I could have been like, oh my God, this is like really because the ground's shaking violently, the planets and the sun are going completely nuts, but it didn't actually translate into fear. Instead, it was just complete awe and like, whoa, what is happening? So I know this is too important not to video and to share with the world. So I'm filming it, and then I begin to see how this bursting light of energy is beginning to look like large multicolored gems, orange, red, and yellow, exploding out of a volcano in the distance, which we are quickly passing by. The Earth is it's like Earth displacement, or in general, it just looks like we're moving past this volcano. The volcano never fully exploded. It has this ethereal metaphysical nature to it the whole time. Then just as quickly as it started, the earthquake stops and the feeling of radiation hitting me is over. The neighbors all around the backyard is flooding and kind of unrecognizable now. I asked them if they saw all this and they said yes. I offered to show my dad and this other person the video, but they started talking to each other and they had this sense of, yeah, we saw it too, it's incredible. And there's this understanding that these gems are spread out across the countryside now and that they are valuable in more ways than one. It took me some time to realize, this is my notes afterwards, it took me some time to realize that this dream was actually not a dream because it was so real. And because I was kind of lethargic and we had the solar storm and everything, I was like still waking up. I wrote it down at 5:04 a.m. I had my alarm set for 4:30 a.m. for the aurora. So it happened during that time frame. So the key thing is that we, in my dream, and this is just my dream, you know, maybe it's prophetic, maybe it's not, I don't know. But it was one of the craziest dreams I've ever had in my life. And I have some crazy dreams, and they're very vivid, sometimes lucid. I've had precognition dreams. I have had dreams of the future. Not many, a couple, but they have happened. In very clear, precise ways. So that ability does exist. Whether you believe it or not, it does exist. And that's, you know, there's some psi abilities which go way beyond that. That's a pretty basic one. But the key was the points of light, which were the planets and the sun, and the annular eclipse. That annular eclipse is what we have coming up. And I wasn't thinking about the eclipse or anything. I didn't even know that was an annular eclipse coming up. I mean, maybe I heard someone mention it. I knew we had an eclipse coming up, but you know, the other things like the planets and the Cazimis were on my mind, but the annular eclipse, that wasn't at all in my mind. And I looked it up today to see what the eclipse was, whether it was total or annular or partial, and it showed annular. So I'm pretty sure I didn't have that information in my head at the time because I have pretty much photographic memory. But it was very clearly an annular eclipse. That's speaking to what's coming up on the 17th of February, and then on the 20th, we have this Saturn-Neptune conjunction. My interpretation of the volcano was that was actually perhaps Three-Eye Atlas, because we were having this movement by it, and it had this like metaphysical nature to it. So I get the sense that this energy from this interstellar object has been triggering some big changes to not only the Earth, but with the sun and the entire solar system. And that was the gems, these multicolored gems that were exploding out of the sun. These are like nuggets of wisdom and knowledge and inspiration and paradigm shifts and epiphanies and more, basically being delivered to us. And they were there for us on the ground, ready to be picked up after this event occurred. The earth shaking may not actually be an earthquake. It could be the material realm undergoing a transformation, because the earth is representative of 3D material reality. So that could be massive upheavals with society, governments, geopolitics, borders, and more. Things of that nature. That could be what that connects to and is representative of. It could also be giant earthquakes. I don't know. This whole dream could just be a dream. I don't know. But I feel like I have to share that with you. But one of the key things here with the planetary resonances is that we have Neptune in the same position as a Carrington event. We had a planetary alignment almost exactly the same as a Carrington event, this time with Jupiter, though, instead of Saturn. We have the Saturn-Neptune conjunction occurring at 0 degrees of Aries. The very beginning, we have this massive sunspot. The sun is representative fire. You know, the sun's exalted in Aries. Saturn makes manifesting, you know, Neptune's the impossible. Saturn makes it manifest. And there's something else that's been kind of rolling around in my mind, which is the cycle of creation. And that you need to, like, creation begins with a renewal after a destructive phase. So effectively, flame is meant to consume that which it burns, and then itself is to die and be reborn another time anew. So in other words, if there's something that it's the end, it's meant to be the end for that. The fire will burn it, and the flame is not meant to continue going on. There are a lot of things right now on this planet, our society, structures, everything, that are well past their lifetime. That's become abundantly clear if you pay attention to any of the news in the past week. It's abundantly, I have a terrible stomach ache right now too, for some reason. Oh, I don't get stomach aches that often. This one's really not good. But it's abundantly clear that, so I'm going to end the live stream a little short because of this, because I need to go outside and do some grounding or something. Even though it's freezing cold out, the stomach ache's not good. Either way, the fire will consume that which it needs to, and it's not meant to keep going. Certain things are not meant to keep going forever. If they're at their time, they're meant to keep going. And you could say that peace is the blanket of ashes that settles after the fire has consumed all that there is to burn. So we may not see peace until after that fire has consumed everything that no longer serves us. And a lot of people right now are very worried about artificial intelligence and this artificial video creation, photo creation, and all this stuff, and technology and the influence it has and the control that can have over us. I'm not going to get into it too much. We all know the things, I would think, at this point, but a Carrington class solar flare could reset that. It's possible. Complete reset, I don't know, but it is possible. So I see how it all could connect together. That does not mean it's going to. I'm not, proclaiming this is what's going to happen. But as I said at the very beginning, all the pieces are there. They're all fitting together. Maybe the puzzle gets scrambled up again. Maybe not. We have the conditions required for this to occur. So that's what's happening right now. We have tremendous activity with the sun. I will keep you up to date on all this. I mean, let's just go back to our X-ray flux here, just to really kind of drive this home. But we're staying now at an R1 radio blackout permanently. This is our base. We could go up 100x from here with our X-ray flux. If we do that from right here where we are, that would be a 22 X-class flare. If we were to go up 2 orders of magnitude from where we are right now, that'd be a 22 X-class flare. A 10X would be a 2.2. We've had those, not a big deal. With a 100X, we could have a 22. With a 200X, it would be a 44 X-class flare. So, yeah, got some pretty wild stuff. I was going to do question and answer. I don't feel good enough to do that right now. The way my stomach is feeling, I almost never get stomach aches. This is very bizarre, but I'm going to listen to my body and I'm going to do what I can to make that feel better. I will be posting updates, of course, on my X account. That's at Stefan Burns Geo. I will be posting updates to YouTube as necessary as well. I will be in the middle of a snow camp starting tomorrow. But one of the points of that is Aurora, and I'm here. Like, if we got shit going down, I'm there for you guys. That might be the best place to be there for you. I had a dream about that too. I meant to be there. So keep in mind that destiny exists, but we can also choose part of our own destiny. So light over dark. Don't let the dark forces convince you that your destiny is chosen, that we have to accept certain things. Maybe we don't like, I don't know if we're going to get something big, whatever. I know a lot of people want that. Some people don't. I'm not necessarily praying for it, but if it happens, then that's what God willed. Maybe it's time for the fire to consume everything that's past this expiration date and for us to, move on afterwards. I don't know. But I think it's good to be ready for that, be prepared for that. We're in a tremendously, unbelievably powerful time right now. It's beyond compare. It's not like we've never been through powerful periods in time before, but what's happening right now is certainly one for the history books. We're living in it right now. We could see some incredible activity from the sun very, very soon. We already are, but in terms of historic activity, it's certainly possible because of sunspot group 4366. So yeah, wise words from Mayberry. Hopefully it is meant to unite us all. That is the only way forward. The end of the era of division should be coming to an end. If we all have some wits about us, it's time to come together, put our differences aside, and realize what's actually important, which is preserving human life, treating each other with respect, right? The 10 Commandments, the 7 deadly sins, you don't want to commit those, right? Like, there's some basic tenets of being a good person, just being a good life form. You don't see other animals do some of the crazy shit that we do. So it's time for us, like, who's the more conscious one? People are like, humans are the smartest animals. We're not animals because we're so smart. We're the most conscious beings. Like, guys, we do some wacky ass, dumbass shit. That's just the best way to put it. Excuse my French. It's so stupid. So no, we're not the smartest because there's plenty of animals that don't do what we do, and they're doing much better than us. So we're not as smart as we think. It's time for us to come together, and I wish you all the best. Please take care of yourselves as needed. Rest, relax. This is a lot of energy right now. If you feel out of balance or out of whack or lost, distracted, dazed, confused, whatever, like, that's just also the energy right now. So just roll with it. And I don't know, right? But that's what I'm doing. All I can share is what I'm doing. So anyways, wishing you all the best. Love and light to each and every single one of you. Please take care of yourselves. I'll be back with more very, very soon. Thank you so much.